Welcome to Let's Run Fit with Be Lit, the podcast that fuels your passion for running, fitness, and personal growth. Get ready for an empowering episode today as we transform your relationship with food. We're going to be talking with Deanna, a seasoned runner, coach, and host of an insightful podcast called Fitness and Sushi. It's a good one. Go check it out. Deanna is going to guide us on our journey of mindset transformation, helping us develop a healthier approach to food. So grab a seat, open up your mind, and get ready to transform your relationship with food and exercise in this inspiring episode of Let's Run Fit. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm so excited to have you. We're going to be here talking about, unleashing our potential in fitness and having that healthy relationship. But before we get going, could you just introduce yourself and kind of let us know who you are?
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm Deanna Schober, and I am the co-founder of Built Daily with my husband, Tony. I also host the Fitness and Sushi podcast with him. I am a very amateur runner. I love to run. So I was really excited to just talk about running because I don't feel like I get to talk about it very much. But in my business, in my professional life, I help women to heal their relationship with food and their bodies, exercise, and their mind. Help them to kind of get out of diet culture and to experience health and fitness with a sense of freedom. I'm also a mom. I have 4 kids. They range from ages 9 to 24. So a wide range there. Also a new college student. I just started school again for the first time in 20 years. So.
Oh, that's always exciting. You always think it's going to be easy and you go back and you're like, oh, this is hard. Oh,
I can't even tell you how shocked and horrified I was. I was like, I don't know what I knew it was going to be hard. I did not realize it was going to be like that.
That's how it was with my master's. I was like, well, didn't remember all of this.
Yeah. Exactly.
You go through it though. You'll get through it. You get back into the swing and then you're like, okay, this was easy. At least that's what happened with me.
That's what I've heard.
I want to start today talking about your personal running journey. Like you said, you are a runner and you love to talk about running. So I want to hear your personal story. I know you've run a half marathon. You told me you had one that was just like the perfect stars align, which as anyone who's a runner knows that happens so rarely.
Yeah.
So we have to hear about this, magical run because we might not ever experience one.
Oh my God, it's so true. Well, to understand why it was such a magical run, I have to give you a little history of my relationship with running, which was that it had been something that I used to control my body since I was 15 years old. I had only done it to try to lose weight. It was just a weight loss tool, and I had a really unhealthy relationship with it and with my body. And so it was this control thing, and it was nothing that I cared about. I didn't care about the experience of running itself for years. It was only after I healed my relationship with my body and came out of some pretty disordered eating and exercise patterns that I started to actually love running just for the sake of running. And I even went through a period of time I had, before this magical half marathon, I had a couple of races that I did where even though I had completed them and I had done, fairly well, I wasn't happy because now instead of using it to running to control my body, I was using it for self-worth. So I had to be the fastest and I had to be the best at it, and I had to be good at it. So it had just kind of morphed into this whole other thing.
So
yeah, I think that's common, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I went into this one. This was really deep into my healing journey. And I was like, I'm going to try another half marathon. My husband actually signed me up for one for as a Christmas gift. We still joke about that to this day, but,
like you either go really well or really bad.
Yeah. I was like, this is great. But he signed me up, because I hadn't done one in a while and I love to run. And I was like, I'm going to do this in a whole new way. I want to test out my relationship with exercise. I don't care about anything except for having an experience. I want to have a beautiful experience. I want to learn lessons. I want to be in my body. I want to just see what this has to offer me instead of me trying to prove myself and get that external validation. And so I was like, what would be a cool experience to have in this half marathon? How about and this is for me, it was a really big stretch goal. What if I could do it in less than 2 hours? And I had never even come, like my first two was like 2:20, 2:30. So I had never even come close before. So I started with like visualization. I started visualizing crossing the finish line at 1:59, and I started training for it. And I was just trying to enjoy the running. And I was blissed. It was just like, I was blissed out during my training. I was having so much fun. I was really enjoying the stats that I was getting back and analyzing them. And it was just a fun experience for the first time ever. And then the day of the race, I showed up, and it, like, the journey to get there felt so big and important and valuable that the race itself just felt like the icing on the cake, which was the first time I'd ever experienced anything like that with running or racing or really exercise. So I was like, no matter what happens today, this has been awesome. I have had the best time. I've learned so much about myself, what I'm capable of. I'm nowhere near being able to cross the finish line at an hour 59. But here we go anyways. And so I started the race, and it was like having, one of those days, one of those great days where just all the stars aligned, or I guess with my nutrition and everything. And I found the pacers for the 2-hour mark and just decided I was going to stick to them like glue, no matter how it felt in my body. And was just most of it was okay. And then I just reached a point probably halfway through where I was at my anaerobic threshold for an hour straight, just trying to, I know, just stupid. Like holding down vomit. And I kept thinking, like, it's okay if you want to back off. It's okay if you don't make this goal. And I just thought, what if I reached down and saw what I was capable of? And so I started playing kind of games with myself. It's like, just get to that next tree. Just get to that next tree. And as I'm running, I'm like, oh my God, wouldn't that work really well in life if I just like focused on what was right in front of me? And then I was having things like I would turn around to see if the person that I had passed was like gaining on me or not. And then I realized how much energy that had cost me. And I was like, just like in life, just like, it's like having all these epiphanies left and right. And it just felt like a spiritual experience. And I lost the 2-hour pacers there for a little while, but then towards the end, I was just like, are we going to do this or are we going to do this? And do you want to have this experience or not? And I just turned on the gas. I don't know where it came from. Like I said, nothing in my training had said that I was going to be able to do what I did. I crossed the finish line at exactly an hour, 59 minutes with like seconds to go. And my husband had surprised me and shown up with our son at the finish line. And my best friend had surprised me and was there. And it was just like, it was just so great. And it turned out that I was about to leave, and I was like, oh, let me just go check and see, where I came in. And I had come in first place for my age group. So I got a medal. Amazing. The thing that like I had been wanting so much for all my other races. And it just came to me like almost as a side effect of me just deciding I was going to go in and have a good time and have an experience. And it was like, there it was. It was crazy. So
to be honest, it's not even that crazy, because my half marathon PR was after I had gotten frustrated. I had dropped out of training for a full marathon. I had taken like 2 weeks off. With the full marathon, I was so early. I had barely had long runs, but I had this half marathon on the schedule. I was like, I'm not going to look at my watch. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to run this, enjoy this, and see what happens. And about halfway through, I caught up. And for mine, I was trying to beat 2:30. Mm-hmm. And I find the 2:30 pacer, and I was like, is this literally the 2:30 pacers? Like, how did I catch them? Like, I had no clue, because at that time, my PR going in was a 2:48.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hang on, that's the 2:30 pacer. And then I realized at the pace, I got in front of them. And I was like,
Wow.
I was determined to not look back
Mm-hmm.
because I was so scared that they were right behind me the entire time. In my
Yeah.
head, they were literally just right behind me. And if I looked back, that would be the second that they'd pass me. And then I get to the finish line and I ended up finishing at 2:27.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I was like, how the heck did this just happen?
There's something magical that happens when you just let go of expectations and you just
100%.
enjoy. I mean, it's magical. It happens across such a wide range of experiences too. It's not just running. It happens in work. It happens in relationships. It's definitely a huge aspect of why when women come in and they're not dieting anymore, why they just start to lose the weight finally because they're not trying so hard anymore. That's something that we see. So it's really interesting how that works across the board.
I think releasing the stress as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the stress of chasing a PR or chasing a weight loss goal or
Uh-huh.
chasing like in a relationship, whatever you think should happen,
Yeah.
you'll never reach that. Because that's something I've talked about on this podcast before, that we as humans, we set a goal. And even if we do reach it, we immediately move the bar. So we never
Mhm.
reach what we think we should have. So when
Yeah.
you're like, F it, I don't care anymore, let's do this, suddenly you can reach your goals and you enjoy it more because you weren't stressed out.
Exactly. And you know, my husband pointed this out to me once. When you have a goal and all you're living for is the goal, you reach it and it's a moment and then it's over. The moment is over. And then what? And then you're left feeling so, I mean, the moment's great, but that it's so shallow because it's over. And then you have to find a new goal and you're just always seeking to meet these goals. And if you really just enjoy the process of the whole thing and just dig into that feeling, that's where I feel like that's where all that enjoyment comes from. And that's also why you get addicted to doing stuff like running, because it becomes an enjoyable experience from beginning to end, not just the end result of it.
Oh, yeah. And the training is what I always tell my clients. If you don't love training, then racing's not for you. Like
Yes.
if you
Yeah.
only love race day, then we need to talk about something, because the training is where you have a lot of that life changing, getting to know yourself and everything else. And if you don't enjoy the training, like you said, you end up almost depressed after race day because you're like, now what?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
it's so common for runners to actually get literally depressed and having to go see a doctor or some type of health professional because they're like, I don't know what to do with myself now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. What do I do now? I mean, I think that was what I was experiencing up until that point. You know, I remember this like triathlon that I had trained so hard for. And in the beginning, of my swim, my, whatever that is, the thing around your ankle fell off and they had to get out and start over, and I lost so much time. And so at the end, even though I had I mean, like my training was awesome, I had done things that my body had never done before, and at the end I came in fourth, so I didn't get to stand up on the podium. And it was like I went home with such a bad attitude. I get so mad at myself thinking about that now, because I just let it ruin everything. And I didn't know how to swim. I learned how to swim, and I was mad because I didn't stand on the podium. Um, I feel like I've experienced that so many times in all sorts of different ways when it comes to exercise. So
When I first started running, I was great at getting second place in my age group at 5Ks. Always
yeah,
second. Like I literally kid
which is
around about
amazing.
it. I was like, I'm second again. But like you just said, you're second. What do you mean again? Like,
I know.
why are you sad? And it took me a very long time to like come to terms with that. And now it's like a big joke because the girl who was always beating me, she's fantastic and she's working with a coach. And it went from she would only beat me from like a minute or two, and now she's beating me by like 5 to 6 minutes. And I'm always like, she can get an overall now. I can get first.
Uh-huh.
Like she finally got good enough. That or she'll age to the next age group.
Yeah, yep,
But like,
yep.
why was I not celebrating those second places, especially considering I was not training correctly? I was racing way too often. I had no clue what I was doing. And
Mm-hmm.
somehow like landing in second place and then being mad at myself for it.
I know. It's all that I mean, that's just such, I mean, that's what I love about running and exercise. It's all just such a great metaphor for the rest of your life. Everything that's true in running is true of life and all situations. So you can learn so much from it.
100%. Because like you mentioned before, not looking back. If you're
Right.
constantly looking back over your shoulder, like that means you're not facing the future and going towards your goals, and you're more worried about what you used to do.
Right. You're wasting energy. That was the big thing. It's like, this is such a waste of energy. And it's not helping me. It doesn't help me at all to know what's going on behind me or where I've been. What is going to help me is to be looking towards the future and really to be where I am right now, just to be present and be where I am and enjoy this moment because I'm not getting another one. And just to be present and not to, that is where you have your maximum energy anyways.
100%. I actually have an athlete who I yell at him constantly because in every race, he turns around at the finish line and starts to look back. And I'm like, bro, if you don't stop, like it drives me nuts. But at the same time, in his life, like he's just coming off of a really bad injury. Like he's lucky he's still running, if like we're being completely honest, and he's still killing it.
Yeah.
Like he's doing so good, but he's so worried about where he was before his injury that he's not paying attention to the fact that he is still running 5Ks in like the 17-minute range.
Yeah.
And I just want to pull him aside and be like, you are so fantastic. And you had a back injury. All those other people, they didn't have a back injury. So they might be a little faster than you, but you're still this fast with a back injury that you're recovering from. Imagine once you're fully recovered, you are going to pass those people. Like, stop worrying about the past.
Yeah.
And like, focus on the now.
I'm just like thinking about how all of those things just resonate in every aspect of what I work on with my clients too, but in so many different ways. Like, don't look at who you were 20 years ago and don't compare yourself to previous versions of yourself. Yeah. It's just so universal. I
had to stop comparing to my high school self because I'm not in high school anymore. It's been 15 years since I was in high school. I'm not going to run my high school PR. And I actually talked with someone else on this podcast about there comes a point where you need to delete your PRs and start fresh because you're not the person you were, whether it was an injury or you got older or you took time off. Delete your PRs. Don't even worry where you used to be and start making PRs again right now.
That's really good advice.
Like,
very good.
I had never thought about that until she mentioned it to me. And I was like, this is what I need to do. And I did it instantly because I took time off since all the PRs that were in my like Garmin and I deleted all of them. And now I have this new motivation to run again because I get to watch the little stars pop up and I can be like, oh, look, I did get better because I'm not chasing who I was 2 years ago. I'm chasing who I am now.
Oh, that's so good. I really love that. I think
I would have never thought about deleting a personal record.
I'm going to do that. I mean, I'm going to write it down somewhere.
Yeah, like you can still remember your lifetime PRs, but you need your right now PRs, and that's what you focus on. That's what you're racing against.
Yes.
And I'm like, that is an amazing mindset to have. Because like the whole reason you and I are talking today, we're talking about having this healthy mindset with exercise.
Yeah.
Because so many people use it for the wrong things, like how you mentioned earlier that you were using it as a punishment for your body.
Right. Exactly.
Like, why are we doing that? You know, like what are some very common issues? I know you have a lot of clients that you work with where you're really trying to cultivate this positive mindset. What are some really common issues you kind of face with a lot of people? Because I'm sure they're universal across the board. And how do you help them, you know, change the narrative to have that positive mindset again?
Well, so the women that I work with are healing from diet culture. They have been yo-yo dieting, you know, probably their whole lives. And so the most common problem that comes up is the diet mindset around exercise, which is just you're here. This is just a thing that you have to do, that you have to suffer through in order to control your body. So they have negative associations with it. People who are exercising are doing exercise that they don't enjoy and they're suffering through it and they're hating it and they're pushing themselves too hard and they're working through injury and illness and just have this like almost compulsive relationship with it. That's one end of the spectrum. And then on the other end of the spectrum is the person who tried to do it that way, the diet culture way, which is like burn the most calories that you can, suffer through, push yourself, no excuses. And that mindset has made them have such a bad taste in their mouth when it comes to exercise. They feel like if they're not doing doing it a certain way or hard enough or fast enough, that they're not doing it right. And so they feel guilt and shame, and then they just avoid it, because that's what we do. We avoid those.
Every single example there. I have
You
been
were?
one of those, both sides.
Yeah, so have I. I've been, and I think that's common because you have the one experience of like, I can't even rest when I'm tired. And so you don't want to do that again. You start avoiding it.
Bad.
Especially when you have that experience. And a lot of people also have the experience with exercise of like childhood sports where you're punished with running. And
I talk about that so much on this podcast.
Yeah.
Like, why is that a thing?
I had to go to my kid's school. I couldn't stand it because my daughter was getting punished with having to walk around if she missed her homework and having to walk around at recess. And I told them that I'm not okay with that. Don't do that anymore. Like, I don't want my kids to be punished with laps.
I remember that. Oh gosh, you just pulled a core memory out of having to walk the perimeter from talking in class. I forgot about that. That's part of the things that was struggling with me. And I didn't even remember it happened until right now.
I know. People have that. When we talk about this in our program, people have these memories that they didn't even remember. A lot of it is sports related. Like, I have a lot of people who are like, I was on the swim team and they pushed us until we threw up. And it was, that really, really negative association with it, where now, why would I want to do this? Like, why would I want to go back to that? That's the only way that they know it. And so I have to help them to create a new association with exercise where they are the ones who are in control. You get to say how fast or slow you go. You get to say how often you work out. You get to pick the things that you really enjoy. If you don't like running, you don't have to run. Everybody thinks that they have to run. And I know that
why is running like the go-to?
Yeah.
I want to lose weight, because you normally gain weight when you start running.
I tell everyone that. I know it's and you get hungrier, and so you eat more. It's actually really difficult to lose weight running. Not terribly difficult, but it can.
You can do it,
harder.
but it's less fun running in a deficit.
Yes, it's miserable. So yeah, it's just one of those things. And so we try to get them to pick exercise that they think that they'll really enjoy, because if you are doing something that you enjoy and that you feel in control of, and that you feel like you can take breaks when you need to, then you're much more likely to get out there and do it and try it. And then you're more active, and then you're more consistent, and doing one thing a month is better than doing no things a month. So that's what happens, is they start to feel more positive and more in control about it. And then that just kind of snowballs, because when you do start moving, it feels really good. And when you don't have all that stuff attached, you want more of it. And so it becomes kind of a self-propelling thing where it's self-motivating. You want that. I mean, for me, I don't know about you, but I'm all for those like endorphins that you get with running. I'm like literally addicted to it. And you want to get out there and move because it feels so good. And now that you don't have all that pressure of you've got to do it perfectly, and you got to do the right way, and you can't take breaks, and you don't have any excuses, it's just so much more nuanced than that. And then it's an enjoyable experience.
How long do you notice it normally takes to get out of that mindset? Because with my husband, he's probably the one that has it the worst. He was in the military. So military is, if you're not keeping up, then you're not trying. He had actually a drill sergeant when he was in basic who made them eat a full dinner and then go to PT. And her goal was to make everyone throw up, which I'm like, how does she get away with that? Because now they don't have enough calories in the day. That's super dangerous. Like, I can't even figure out how that woman kept a job. I know the military is a little bit of a different mindset, but like, he has this finish or die trying.
Yeah.
And it's been about 6 years since he's been out. And I cannot get him past that. I know a lot of women still have it from their childhood. Like, there's so many examples of people who were punished with exercise, that how long do you think it really takes of working with somebody before they can finally let go and be like, this is fun, not a punishment. This I didn't like. I don't have to do this part. You know what I'm trying to say? Like
Yeah.
moving on past that.
Everyone is so different. I wish I could give like a general thing. I'm just like thinking through my clients right now, and I've had people like literally in a couple of weeks where they just woke up and were like, "Oh my God, yes, of course." I think it depends on your personal history with it too. For somebody who had a really intense relationship with exercise, where it was more like what your husband has experienced, it can take time. I have one client right now who, the first 6 months that I worked with her, it was really important that she had my permission for her to not exercise if she didn't want to. That was really important to her, because she felt so burned by what she had put herself through in diet culture, the forcing herself to do it. And she had such a strong association with it that she really needed a coach to say, you don't have to. You don't have to. There's other ways to be healthy. We don't have to exercise. There's nothing good or bad about it. There is a cause and effect. There's good things that come from exercise, and you don't get to have those experiences if you don't exercise, but there's nothing like morally wrong with that. There's just cause and effect. So we spent about 6 months like that. And I knew that eventually she would say, I'm interested in it. And so she did. And so we're at probably 9 months of working together now. And she just started exercising. And she's got all these like guidelines for herself of like, it has to be fun. I will sign up for like a month-to-month membership so that I can quit at any time. And so she's got to have a lot of freedom when it comes to it, but it's happening, and it's happening just kind of slowly for her. So I think it depends on what the history is there, what you bring with you and how much healing you've done on your own. Exercise is actually the least problematic relationship that we work with. 4 relationships: food, body, exercise, and mind. And for most people, exercise is the least problematic because most people at some point have had some sort of positive experience with exercise because it's so great when it feels really good. So it's one of the lesser common things that I see, but when it is big like it is with my one client, it can take a little while. It can take some patience.
It's hard. Going
Yeah.
to the food side, like what are kind of the most common things? Like I know we've talked about it a little bit already, but what are the most common things you see there, and how do you help your clients through that side? Because like you mentioned, food is probably one of the hardest because it's bombarded on us every time you open anything, because ads are everywhere. It's in your email. Like, leave me alone. You should not have ads in my email. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
so how do you kind of help people get away from that one? Because that's a lot harder to avoid, because you'd have to completely shut off all technology.
Yeah.
To like remove a lot of that diet culture that is just being crammed down our throats.
Yes, absolutely. It's the number one most difficult. That's, of the 4 relationships, the food thing is the most difficult because it's a lifetime of programming. And now it's like it's still out there, it's just sneakier now. Everybody's like, "Oh, we're not a diet." But I'm like, "Yes, you are." Any kind of forced behavior change that where you have to follow rules and you don't have any autonomy in what you eat, and you're not making informed decisions for yourself, and you're just listening to what somebody else tells you to do, is a diet. That's diet mindset. So it's really difficult. So our biggest thing that we do in our program to heal the relationship is to make all food, like, get away from the idea of there being good and bad food. It's
100%
all
there.
just food. Yeah. And with that, it's like you can start thinking about food in more of a nuanced setting, more detail. So there's some food that gives you lots of energy, and there's some food that you eat it and it tastes really good, but maybe it drains your energy. And so you can choose based on what you need for that moment. What is your need for that meal? What is your need for that weekend? Are you training? Do you need fuel for a race or something? So you get to make decisions based on what your needs are, and it doesn't have to be a black and white rule because someone else told you that you should or you shouldn't. So there's a lot of guilt and shame associated with a lot of different foods, and we have to work really hard with our clients to let that go, because that keeps them in a cycle called the binge restrict cycle, where they restrict themselves from food, and then psychologically it's just inevitable that at some point they're gonna run out of willpower, and then they binge on the food, and then they go right back to restriction, and it just goes and goes and goes. And that's really what's behind yo-yo dieting in and of itself. Is it's a psychological response to scarcity with food. So we get them out of scarcity and put them into abundance, which is you can eat anything you want. You just, need to be informed of what the side effects are.
That is so true. And like you mentioned, people are claiming to not be a diet. There are now quote unquote lifestyle changes.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm like, seriously? Like
I literally I talked to somebody the other day, and I was just talking to her about something, and I went to her website and was looking at her stuff, and she was like, number one, you need to have a healthy relationship with food. And then she was like, and if you go to a party, don't eat any of the food, bring your own. And if you can't control yourself with the food, you need to leave. And I was just like, no. So
you can be like, eat before you go, so you're not as hungry to snack.
Exactly. Yes.
Or
exactly
keep water in your hand, so you're like snacking on like your water. Or you could even bring a veggie tray, but still eat a cookie.
Like, don't ruin your life for food. I mean, even temporarily, it's such there's so many side effects to that people just don't realize. You don't act that way without paying a penalty for it. You pay a penalty for every time that you are telling yourself no when you really want to do something. You pay a penalty for that. So there's a lot of ways to handle that.
Take a bite to taste and then nothing more. I'm like, who wants just a bite of a cookie?
No.
Like a single cookie isn't going to kill you.
And that advice doesn't work anyways. I have gotten to a place where I can take a bite of a cookie and walk away from it, but it's not because I'm making myself. It's because I have a healthy relationship with food. I know that
because the cookie will still be there.
Exactly. I can always get another cookie. If this one isn't good, I can get a better one. So I can do that. It's not you can't force those things. And the more you try to force it, the worse it gets, is what we have found, which is why we have so many women who are really messed up with food. I think that the last statistic I saw was like 75% of women over the age of 30 have a disordered relationship with food.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Like, because I did have an eating disorder in college. Like, it got pretty bad. And those thoughts, they never really leave you. So you always have that there. But now I have worked through with lots of therapy and like self conversations and journaling to realize just because I'm thinking it doesn't mean it's true.
Yes.
And I've made it to where I can, go through. And I do have foods that like trigger the binge process again. Like if I have an entire thing of ice cream, I'll eat the entire thing of ice cream.
Yeah.
So I kind of control that by, okay, I'm going to make a bowl of ice cream so I have a stopping point. Small things like that, because you have to know where your limits are. And for me, ice cream, I don't know why.
Yeah, I have those foods too. And I approach that. We call those healthy boundaries. You're still in a healthy relationship with that food, but if it's in front, environmentally, if it's in front of you, you're just going to eat it. And so, because you're being mindless. And so we go into that in a state of permission. If I want, this is how much ice cream I'm going to serve myself, and I'm going to sit down and eat it and not guilt myself for it. And at the end of it, if I want more, I can have it. And 99% of the time you get to the end of it and you're like, nope, that was great. But
you're just too lazy to get back up.
Yeah, exactly. That sounds like me.
That's me. When I have ice cream in the house, I put it as far back into the freezer as I can. So it's a lot of work to get it out. It's a lot of work to put it back.
Yeah.
And then normally I'll sit down, get under a cozy blanket. I don't want to get back up. And that seems to work. That, or I use the Ninja Creamy, because it takes a good 8 minutes to make the ice cream. So it really gives you that kind of separation from want to have, to make you really think about, do I really want more, or does like my emotions want more?
Yeah.
I love that. Because I'm keeping ice cream. I'm not getting rid of ice cream.
I know. What would life be without it? Yeah.
So kind of finishing up here, if anyone wanted to work with you and have help getting this healthy mindset around fitness and nutrition and just overall healthy lifestyle, and getting away from all the things that we are being told that we should believe about our bodies and about fitness and food, how could someone get in touch with you?
So I actually set up a redirect for your audience. So if they want to go to builtdaily.com/runfit, and it will take them to an assessment. And so you can go there and find out how your relationship is with food, your relationship with your body, exercise, and mind. And then you will be shown a video where it can like kind of explain everything to you. And then we can hop on a call and just talk about it and see if working through this relationship would change your life. These relationships would change your life and improve your health and fitness and the psychology and everything that goes into it. So builtdaily.com/runfit, or you can listen to our podcast, Fitness and Sushi.
I love fitness and sushi. Sushi is one of my favorite foods.
That's why we named it. That's why we named it that.
I'll make sure to have all of that in the show notes for those of you out there on your runs right now or driving, so you can go find that. I think that questionnaire could be so beneficial for so many people, because most people don't even realize they have this negative relationship. So I'm going to make sure it's there. But thank you so, so much for being here. We had such a great conversation, and I love it. Like, I love that we have more people opening this conversation to make it more known that this is a thing in the world and something that doesn't have to be there.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much, runners, for spending time with me and listening to this episode. If you like what you heard, please hit that subscribe button and leave me a review. I always love to hear from my listeners. And if you want more Let's Run Fit in your life, find me on Instagram at Let's Run Fit with BLit. Until next time, runners. The information in this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for medical or professional advice. Please always consult a medical professional if you're seeking medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The Let's Run Fit podcast is not liable for risk or issues associated with using or acting upon the information in this podcast.